I have a plan. It's a good one. In fact, it's a plan that's been given to me by kind, inspiring commentators who I'm sure had no intention of driving me mad. But that's exactly what this plan shall do. Red Dead Redemption 2 without guns. I attempted this challenge with the first Red Dead, which brought ruin to my soul. Curse that raft forever. So now, time for the same with its much bigger sibling. As Arthur Morgan, I'm not allowed to fire any gun for any reason, which, yes, though the bow is not technically a gun, I concluded in my Uncharted 2 no gun run that a crossbow isn't a gun either, but the very idea of what it does is too similar to allow it. If it shoots, it disputes. Now it's time for my very first delve into Red Dead Redemption 2. So here's a spoiler warning. Holster those guns, whip out your knife, and let's go charge with reckless abandon into certain doom. A harsh blizzard grips the land. The Dutch Vanderlyn gang, of which I, Arthur Morgan, belong, retreat from a robbery gone bad into the mountains in hopes of losing law enforcement. While looking for shelter, Dutch and I stumble upon the rival O'Driscoll gang, also hiding out, and like any tough enforcer, I go ahead and get shot down in the first fight of the game. Nothing screams competent muscle like dying 4 times and getting exhausted before I can catch the last guy from fleeing into the storm. On a more positive note, I get a wonderful horsey, plus play with cute puppies while on a rescue mission. They play a tad rough, but that's okay. They're also really good at playing dead, but I promise they're just playing, even when run over by my horse to protect the others. They're phenomenal actors. They're doing Shakespeare in the park next week, in fact. Some challenges ease you in. Others take a wall and smash your big toe as hard as possible the moment you walk in. Red Dead 2 proves to be the latter of the two. For half an hour, I struggle to fight off a large group of O'Driscolls as my allies prove to only be mildly helpful. Charging at a clump of armed men is a great way to meet Satan in person, and it takes me too long to realize just how useful my lasso is at picking off stragglers so I can send them to Lucy in my stead without much risk. After making a friend the only way I know how of one of the fleeing O'Driscolls, I join Charles, the most morally upright of our little group, in hunting deer. The game really encourages the use of the bow here, and let me tell you, running right at deer trying to knife them is a less than stellar hunting technique. For whatever reason, the deer aren't smart about staying away, and after much trial and error, I realize they often flee in the same directions, meaning I can let them come to me and either catch a meal or end up curb stomped. With our bellies full, it's time to do what we do best: crime. Unfortunately, for poor Lenny here, even if it's what we do best, we're still quite bad at it. Robbing this train takes far longer with Lenny's need to die. So much so that it really justifies me counting not only how many deaths I die this run, but also how much my allies die. I have to stay hyper aggressive, using an unhealthy amount of medicine to keep me upright as I strive to hold our would-be victims' attention, and only with that, plus a healthy dose of luck, do we storm the train and loot some valuables. Having survived the harsh weather, we roll on to brighter skies, and the only real mistake anyone makes here is putting me in charge of wagon driving. Then it's off to town so I can get a free gun, because sure, I can't use it, but it's free, and free is free. Though not all free things, like free bruises from a muddy bar fight, are quite as enjoyable. Petting a dog and actually winning in poker for once does have a way of making you feel better, though. Then I'm off with Kieran, the captured former O'Driscoll I hogtied into being my friend so that we can ambush his old gang. Bill gives me throwing knives, which are super helpful. Just, not on this mission, because my normal knife will do. Plus, some baked beans to plug up all those bullet holes. With that massacre carried out, I go off with Hosea to buy my main horse of the game, Potato, and hunt a legendary bear. I'm not sure what legends exist about him, but as I resist the game's urging to use my gun, and instead choose to fight his 600 pounds of rage tooth to claw, I can assure you, his legend is a tad overblown. Sure, it leaves me a husk of a man and costs all my throwing knives, but the legend falls. Of course, right as I do that last throwing knife, the entire plot of Brother Bear had to pop in my head, so now I'll carry this guilt around for all of eternity. I see why this game is about redemption. I have much to atone for. Probably not the best way to do that by attacking law enforcement in order to free this random woman. Playing hero doesn't work when A, you're an idiot, and B, the lock requires being shot. So I basically killed 2 men, left this lady to the elements, and got a bounty on my head, all for nothing. Top-notch work. Continuing that line of botched heroism, I make my way to the little town of Strawberry to free fellow gang member Micah, aka the scummiest man alive, and be forced to help him slaughter most of the town as we escape. Sure, it is so much easier with this hatchet I found, but that's probably not a good thing. At least, morally. Challenge-wise, it's great. Less great is that Arthur's not quite NFL ready with his throwing arm, and unable to hit this bounty hunter with hatchets or throwing knives. Arthur's great at eating his way through the pain, at least. Where blades fail, explosions make possible as dynamite throws the hunter off balance far enough for a blade to reach. A whole lot of hatchet work and another rescue successful. I can do some more good by saving this old homesteader and his 2 sons, then immediately ruin it by accidentally threatening the man with my hatchet and having to flee. Surely you can understand after all those less than pure moments why I accepted helping Arthur's old love Mary by saving her brother from a cult's brainwashing. Unfortunately, I wasn't aware this ended with him shooting himself in hysteria and me needing to shoot the gun away before he can. So after leaving for another mission, I still can't get out of this mission and must fire. I'm forced to do it, but technically, if you just refuse to help Mary, you never need to. With the kids saved, a stranger hugged, and a happy dance at camp partaken in, I joined the lads in another train robbery. On the way there, I accidentally hit a horse, and in mourning, allow myself to be killed. Or try to anyway, as before I can die, my gang abandons me instead of defending me, then gaslights me by saying I abandoned them. When we do reach the train, I may get trigger happy.
Just give it to him, Thomas, please!
Okay, in the bag, everything you got. Keep it coming, don't be shy.
People like
Hear me out. I thought he was Thomas Wayne, and I'd be making Batman by doing this. But I realized that's stupid. I have enough trouble on my hands without Batman hunting us, so I restart and do the train robbery without harm. Unless you count all the intervening lawmen I hit with throwing knives and dynamite, then maybe a tad bit of harm. Much worse harm befalls me helping John scare off cloud herders so we can steal their clouds. If I attempt to get close, John will feel abandoned as I have a very clingy team, so I must fire 2 shots into the dirt next to the herders, so we can steal their fluff balls and sell them as our own. Once we reach town, things go even worse, as the tycoon who owns that train we robbed earlier has John and Strauss taken hostage. Knowing John is the protagonist of the first game, which is a sequel to this, I know he's immortal, so I shoot him. But it appears my calculations were off on the whole immortality thing. Waiting it out doesn't work either, so I put 1 bullet in John's captor and a hatchet in everyone else. That is, if my allies would do me the kindness of staying alive long enough for me to eliminate our attackers. I admit, it can be a real nuisance getting my hatchet back when thrown, but the gang doesn't have to be so dramatic and keep dying. All that does is make me start over and over. It takes a bit to be lucky and fast enough to get the others to safety, but when I do, I make sure to take Strauss for a literal spin in celebration of our victory. With so much heat on us, we move camp and make acquaintance of Sheriff Gray in order to get our friend Trelawney free from his imprisonment. What better way to make friends with law enforcement than by doing their job for them? Gotta balance that lawful deed with some more crime. But for once, I really prefer the lawful approach when things, per usual, go south. Hiding out in a barn, we're surrounded by assailants, and if that wasn't bad enough, I cannot consistently climb out of the barn to engage in melee. Plus, it really proves a lot harder to competently use explosives while stuck inside. Good thing I'm the only one at risk of blowing up. Even the barn is too sturdy for that. If I do manage to get outside, the sheer level of firepower is more than Arthur can bear. Stuck inside, I keep running out of throwables, or my allies just perish. Only by the very meticulous application of knives and explosives, not all of which make it out of the barn, are we able to survive long enough to flee into the night. Not before I loot this corpse, of course. A loot rat has standards after all. It's a true blessing to actually have a plan that goes off without a hitch. Robbing a bank? No problem. And only having to lasso a few pursuers off their horses in order to escape. Should I worry that the one job that Dutch, our leader, had no part in was the first to succeed with minimal trouble? I'm sure it's all sunshine from here on out. That's what I get for being sidetracked. My singing career has no chance now. Time to get back on task as the career criminal I am and, march for women's suffrage. Yeah, that's the kind of hardcore crime I can get on board with. Far more fun than giving alcohol away for free to encourage a blood feud between rival families. Especially since not only is it a bloodbath fighting our way out when it goes bad, but it feels downright impossible to skedaddle without either me or Hosea dying. I finally realized that merely pointing my gun in their direction causes our pursuers to lose their nerve, often crashing randomly or just failing to hit us long enough to escape. After committing more acts of sabotage to fan the flames of rivalry between the families, Dutch, Micah, and I go to end our own rivalry with the O'Driscolls. What a total surprise when it doesn't work out, and I'm Arthur napped instead. In my normal state, I'm not a very good aim, so you best believe in my badly injured state, I really struggle to make my throwing knives count. Thankfully, stealth and not too much opposition makes it possible for Potato to spirit me away to safety. With that dreadful experience over, I'm sure all the bad karma I racked up for my evil deeds has been properly balanced out, and we're all good now. Yeah, I didn't think so. The two families have grown wise to us, and it's a lot of hatchets to the face to make it out of the crazed town, with one of our members, Sean, down for the count. Bill tries to join him when we're thrown into another Deadeye moment requiring me to shoot the sheriff. The thing is, Bill is such a problem in Red Dead 1, I figure his death here would save John a lot of time. So what's the issue with just, letting it happen? The game disagrees, and I have no choice but acquaint Sheriff Gray with a bullet. Then we're off to deal with the other rival family since they kidnapped little Jack, the son of John and Abigail. Nothing a heap of explosions can't fix. Only problem is the counterattack occurs when I'm well out of melee range, and trying to go back down leads to John's death. How dumb am I? Why am I trying to hatchet people when I just proved explosives work perfectly? After an awkward encounter watching John struggle with this door, I help him out, only to discover another Deadeye event. I seek to wound, even at the cost of a bullet, and I think I actually succeed. Only for Dutch to finish him off. Doesn't matter, since I'm counting all shots, killing or not, but you gotta enjoy the little comforts when you commit a massacre, I suppose. With the law having the audacity to threaten us in person, plus Jack not actually being held by the family we just wiped out, it's time to race away to the big city in search of the kid. We trail him to Angelo Bronte, the kingpin of crime in this city. Angelo is willing to let Jack go if we add more bodies to the local graveyard. But of course, I can't do anything stealthily, bringing the law down on us. Surprisingly, hiding behind John while he does all the fighting doesn't work out, but at least restarting from the checkpoint allows us to avoid the police and get Jack back without any further bloodshed. No, we save the bloodshed for after the party as I ride to save Tilly from some men with a revenge grudge. Only problem is once she's safe, we have to ride down her attackers. Their horses and Potato are evenly matched, except Potato gets tired after a bit, and these must be those ones used in merry-go-rounds, 'cause they never slow. When Miss Grimshaw isn't horrifying me with her T-posing, she's missing every shot she takes, meaning I'm stuck here for far too long in an endless chase. Until randomly, while retrieving the hatchet I threw, one of the men we're chasing just dies off screen, and I'm checkpointed to a spot where I can easily lasso the final man. Who needs skill when the game will just have pity on me? Unfortunately, much like an irritating itch, the O'Driscolls feel a need to make a return. Ambushed at our camp, Sadie and I smash into them with throwing knives and hatchets, once again proving an easy win. How embarrassing for them to surprise us, outnumber us, rely on guns, but still brutally lose. If only things could stay that way in the next mission when we attempt to dupe a bunch of rich gamblers out of their wealth. Things first go terrible when the racist pit boss forces me into a dead-eye quick draw. I really try and kill him before that can happen, but it seems stepping on a man's head is not enough, and he must be shot, costing me yet another bullet. But as we attempt to slink away, we're found out, and the small space erupts in gunfire. All my usual weapons are gone, leaving me only with guns in my fist, plus Javier, who doesn't seem too interested in fighting back, or showing any sense of survival. No throwables, no blades, no medicine, weak allies, and lots of enemies. Not looking good. For over an hour, I try every possible tactic to keep Javier alive and take as many foes down as fast as possible. I even try fleeing without them, but of course that's a no. The aiming my gun without shooting trick just gets me killed, with no hope in sight. Despite not having my satchel, I found that randomly, and fully based on luck, if I was super close to death, I could still apply a random medicine to myself. This keeps me from dying, but I only managed to make it work by combining that with the aiming trick in order to heal twice, allowing me just enough health to take down the guards and finally flee first chance I'm given. When I went into that mission, I had 85 deaths. I didn't come out of it until nearly 180 deaths. Plus, I ate far too many Cool Ranch Doritos stressing over that fight, which can't be good either. The next mission won't let up on my suffering. This bank robbery with Dutch and Lenny turns bad when we find that we've been set up by Bronte and now have the entire police force hounding us. We bolt by trolley, but Dutch and Lenny are too easy of targets for us to get away. No matter how enticing of a target I make myself, the only way forward is by firing exactly twice into the dirt, which, for some reason, keeps my allies from dying. Instead, some head trauma for Dutch and lots of pain for me as I cut my way through the rest of the police before yet again I'm stuck 5 minutes later. Dutch and Lenny refuse to engage in the extreme amount of medicine that I do, which always leads to their deaths, especially as Dutch weakly struggles with a bloodthirsty cop as I just stare on. The only way past this is first desperately waiting for sheer luck to keep the cop from leaping on Dutch, cause if he does, there's nothing I can do. And then if our luck holds, I have to fire 2 more shots into the dirt to appease the game into thinking I'm actually trying. With that heist costing me another hour of pain, I join Dutch in revenge on Bronte. Kidnapping isn't very hard, though lugging him away isn't a delight with my allies doing nada to help me. It requires getting whacked to drop Bronte so that I can kill everyone off and then grab the sleepy crime boss for his weekly hair and face clean. With that act of kindness dispensed, it's time to prove we can't learn our lesson about how bad we are at robbing banks. To no one's surprise, everything goes bad yet again. Hosea is killed by Milton, the Pinkerton who has been chasing us all game, and we must shoot, or in my case, burn our way out of there. Tomahawks, firebombs, and cross-map dynamite are all a must for me to cover my allies' escape. Lenny, of course, gets himself killed again anyways, but wait, what? No, what? Lenny! You're supposed to cause a checkpoint if you die! I'd say you can't die, but you've been doing it all game, so at least have the courtesy to not stay dead, or congratulate me for somehow killing 2 Pinkertons with 1 tomahawk, please, Lenny! With my favorite character dead and my second favorite Charles drawing the law off of us, things are looking bleak as we stow away on a ship. But worry not, things can always be worse. Like a nasty storm washing us up on Guarma, a little island caught in a revolt. Perfect timing for us to pop up and get arrested immediately. Thankfully, minutes later, we're rescued by revolutionaries, all except Javier, who is shot, and we're forced to abandon with a promise to come back for him. It's gonna be a hell of a time keeping that promise though, as I discover that Guarma is agony. The first fight of this chapter would take nearly another hour as I struggle to punch fast enough, not for my own health, but for Dutch's. Dutch has a plan: to die. Looting is risky, but needed to get medicine to survive the fight, but at the cost of time that Dutch makes use of in order to get shot. I'm convinced his only wish is to die and join Hosea, because that's all he offers to this fight. I truly give my all, but the amount of sheer luck I need to make this work is not in my cards. So instead, I focus on that if this challenge idea is not about shooting, then using the gun to bash people's faces in just a second faster should be okay and not against the rules. If you disagree, do as you please. That slight increase in knockout speed buys me the time I need to finally be free of this fight and move on to the much easier task of rescuing Javier. Now with a knife, the fighting is no trouble at all. Long as I don't tackle anyone off a cliff, that is. But I'd never be that foolish, of course. After escaping capture, I'm forced to sneak past guards to free 3 revolutionaries from being hung, and with no other way to save them, it costs me 3 bullets. Plus, even after restarting the mission multiple times to try and find a way out of it, I'm forced to use a 4th bullet on this sniper up here since I lack any throwables. I'd argue we just leave him up there since he can't seem to do any damage, but the game isn't having it. At the very least, the large battle that takes place right after, I can avoid firing any bullets. The high ground gives us a formidable defense, and as long as I stare at everyone with my scope, very slowly, all our enemies fall to my allies. And then, of course, so does Dutch, in our counterattack, cause the man is addicted to death. Lenny may have died a lot, but at least he was likable, Dutch. You're just driving me insane. Lots of medicine, stabbings, and luck later, I'm now stuck firing a cannon on the encroaching warship, because I'm the only one around here who actually does anything, lest you count Dutch dying. There's no getting out of this, forcing 7 cannon shots to sink the warship, and then another cannon shot to topple their leader when he hides out of reach on this tower. For such an old, crumbly tower, it's surprisingly resistant to dynamite. With his demise, we're given a ship and finally free of this land of endless Dutch deaths. No time for a happy reunion with the rest of the gang because the Pinkertons interrupt and rain fire down upon us. Retaliation is not easy when Sadie insists on dying, but with my pack full of explosives, knives, and my trusty hatchet once more, the battle is a breeze when compared to any fight on Guarma. Then I finally get to play hero, when Charles and I clear out a bunch of butcher outlaws and save their captive in our search for a new camp. Then off to the big city to discover Arthur is dying from tuberculosis. Always good to know that no matter how bad luck gets, it will get worse. Gotta love it. Really makes me appreciate life more, so I rush to do more with mine. What? You thought I'd be doing something else? Didn't you hear? Arthur has purely bad luck. Might as well waste it here than getting shot at in the next crime that gets bungled. Seriously, the moment I exit, I manage to get a bounty on my head trying to help this man, and then when fleeing from the cops, drown, cause I forgot my stamina would run out. Oh wait, that's not bad luck. That's incompetence. Nothing to do about that but spread it. Speaking of incompetence, John managed to get captured in that bank robbery before Guarma, and now Sadie and I intend to free him. In order to do that, I use a hot air balloon to scout the prison like the inconspicuous criminal I am. While I'm doing that, Sadie manages to get the O'Driscolls chasing after her, utterly destroying my challenge. No amount of shooting the dirt will help, nor can any of my throwables actually reach. 8 O'Driscolls had to be shot down before I could rescue Sadie. When this is over though, I'm getting really into witchcraft so I can learn to curse people, cause Sadie is first on my list over this. Time to go get sidetracked doing some much needed good deeds. Sure, they usually involved murder and assault in some way, but at least Arthur's trying. Then back to Sadie so we can bust John out of prison. It takes a very careful positioning to not trigger the failure screen and be able to make this hatchet throw, but with it done, we can hold a guard hostage and trade him for John. With him rescued, we flee by boat as the guards prove themselves horrendous shots. Chapter 6 isn't done kicking me while I'm down after that hot air balloon fiasco. Now transporting explosives with Bill, we're attacked by the law, and no surprise, leads to us blowing up. Just to be sure, I checked personally, and yes, dynamite definitely blows up when shot. Locked into only my guns, none of the usual tricks work, and having no other control, the game smashes my challenge apart even further as I bring down 10 more by gunfire. But the pain doesn't end there. Next, I have to ensure the law can hang Colm O'Driscoll, and while that's easy enough, ensuring Sadie and Dutch escape safely is far harder as the first O'Driscoll on their way is superhuman, resisting all shots but mine. That, plus numerous other shots in the ground to ensure Dutch and Sadie can get out, really wound me. Trying to heal my spirit, I attempt to stop what looks to be a kidnapping, but while trying to free the woman, I accidentally kick her instead, terrifying her. Why did the melee button and the free button have to be the same button? At least the next mission goes much smoother, and by that, I only mean I don't have to use any guns. Instead, just die on repeat till Dutch and I can firebomb our way through in order to be cornered.
I got a plan. This is a good one. You can't fight nature, Captain. You can't fight change. You can't fight gravity.
It's zero trouble helping Sadie eliminate the last of the O'Driscolls, or helping Charles infiltrate an army fort to break a Native American chief's son out, but it is far more difficult to help those same natives in fighting off the army in a full-on battle. The fighting is brutal, but on the bright side, for the first time in forever, my allies are not massive liabilities, proving quite effective in combat. Instead, I get to be the liability! Yay! Like when I'm hit with a face full of steam, and Dutch abandons me to die. I'm saved by the chief's son, Eagle Flies, but he's quickly shot by the enemy commander. Along with me, since I refuse to fire. There's only one way out of this, though, and that's with another bullet. Dutch proceeds to lie about leaving me, which is pretty upsetting. But at least if we're gonna pull another heist together, it's on a train. Finally, people are getting that we are good at train robberies and terrible at bank ones. Unfortunately, defending the train from the law means I'm shoved into a Gatling gun position where I lose complete count of how many bullets are used here on the ground in order to teach the dirt to fear the name Arthur Morgan. Maybe 6, maybe 60. Who knows? Let's just settle on a lot. To make matters worse, while we were doing that, John is shot and goes MIA while Abigail is kidnapped by the Pinkertons. Our insane leader goes full off the deep end, abandoning both, so Sadie and I head alone to save Abigail. My job, sadly, is to cover Sadie, and while she's great at killing the first two, she refuses to fight back unless I kill one of each duo standing in her way. Moment I kill one, she always kills the second immediately, proving that she is just making sure I'm helping. I'm really forced to help when Sadie's captured also, but finally, this means I'm alone. Yes, all I wanted all game was to fight on my own, as it's so much easier with no friends at risk of dying, and I can use cover and caution to easily best the Pinkertons. Only to have to kill 2 more with bullets when Arthur storms in after Sadie in another Deadeye moment. Really getting tired of those, but at least that's the final one. Abigail kills Milton, which rescues me, rescuing her, and I send both the women to safety as I head to confront Micah and Dutch. Before Milton died, he told me Micah was feeding him information, which I might be suspicious of if not for A, Micah wasn't obviously pure evil, and B, Bilton was about to kill me, so he had zero reason to lie. Not that I needed an excuse to kill Micah. I feel it's what Lenny would have wanted. Confronting Micah, John shows back up, rageful at being abandoned by Dutch, and this turns into a standoff. A standoff instantly ruined by more Pinkertons. I learned it's a really bad idea to rush the horde of them, and so John and I rush in the opposite direction. And then, tragedy strikes as poor, precious Potato falls, trying to get me to safety. Just for one frickin' time, can my horse please live? I get John to safety in Potato's name, and right when I'm about to be overwhelmed by Pinkertons, Micah saves me. Though it was by accident, so I'm still not holding back when I lay into him. I gotta say, Arthur does an amazing job considering he's on death's door with his tuberculosis. But when Dutch steps in, it's over. Dutch abandons us both. Micah stalks off to hopefully throw himself off the mountain, and Arthur lays back to enjoy the sunrise, heading to ride Potato into the great unknown. And with that, not quite huzzah, as 75 shots, 34 of which killed someone, plus however many I used with the Gatling gun, proves you can't beat Red Dead Redemption 2 without guns. With 254 personal deaths and 236 deaths of my allies, over 50 hours, 4 minutes, I'd say that much gunplay, all things considered, is not too bad though. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you again to my commentators for the suggestion, plus my patrons for voting for this madness. You are all so wonderful. Now let's all go see if we can beat the game of life with high honor, and without guns as well. You know, for the challenge of it all. See you later, friends.